In three, two, one. Hello, and welcome to Know the Score. I'm your host, Don Delarente, and I'm joined by my co host, the Libra Icon. What's going on, Dwayne?
Not too much. It's gonna this now that we're in the finals and everything's spaced out. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my time now.
I know, man. You saw Buffalo Wild Wings account got hacked last night. See what happens when you take away the NBA basketball? Evil.
Exactly.
Just pure evil.
Right. That was a wild moment, and I don't think we need overtime or something for that account or something because that just was crazy.
Another score can be found on the CSPN. You can find us on the web at www.cspn.us. You can also find the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher Radio. You can follow the show account on Twitter at KTS Pod. You can follow Dwayne on Twitter at The Libra Icon. You can follow me on Twitter at Don Delarente. So, Dwayne, we're going to get into it. The Stanley Cup Finals started this week, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights, they win game one, 6-4. Thomas Nosek scored the go-ahead goal midway through the third period after Capitals had stormed back to take the lead. So
Yeah.
they got the 1-0 series lead in front of their home crowd. That place was pumped. And they got a really good game because they jumped out in front early. The Capitals came back, looked like they had gained control, and then the Golden Knights got two more goals to kind of put it away. So kind of your analysis of game one, sir.
Well, aside from the long-winded presentation and theatrics of the pregame, which they really need to tone that back a lot. But
It's Vegas, man.
I guess, yeah, I guess. But in regards to the game, though, this was a good game. A lot of this is probably what you want as a casual hockey fan. A lot of goals, and they delivered on that, and a lot of goals, a lot of action. Star power, everything that you would want to have in this matchup was there. A lot of drama, a lot of, you know, back and forth in terms of scoring. I really thought that it was probably also just a case of first game jitters. I mean, for some players, I mean, they've been in the Stanley Cup. But for others, and as a team that hasn't been there in 20 years versus a team that's there for obviously the first time because it's their first season. So um, I think the NBC got what they wanted in terms of the flow of the game, things like that. I thought Vegas had a good forecheck going early. They were attacking, and that's what got them up 3-1. And when the Capitals play desperate, that's when they're dangerous, and that's how they got back in the game to take the lead. But Vegas always has found a way. They've been doing it all season long. They've been doing it all postseason long. They always try. They always end up finding a way to end up coming back and winning the game, and so that's how Game One ended, and that's how they got the first Stanley Cup playoff final win in franchise history.
All right. The Capitals, they bounced back to win game two, 3-2, behind possibly the biggest save in Capitals history by Brayton Holtby. This turned out to be the Capitals' first ever victory in the Stanley Cup Finals. Ovechkin got things rolling. He scored the first goal in this game. And from there, Brayton Holtby, like I said, was one of the best saves ever with the skinny part of his stick. He basically shut down the open part of the goal and preserved that victory. So you've been talking about Brayton Holtby ever since he got reinserted back into the starting lineup for the Capitals, and that he just may be that hot goaltender that the team rise to the Stanley Cup championship. So your analysis on game two.
Game two is more defensive. I think now that you have the familiarity out the way, the formalities out the way, another long-winded presentation because Vegas. But the Capitals really came out They were the attackers this time, and they held serve. They had a lot of block shots, a lot of great goaltending, and not only was it the skinny part of the stick, it was also his hand because it was like right under the blocker of the of his equipment that where Braden Holtby made that save, and that really was the difference from it being 0-2 versus 1-1, and now we have a series now with the Capitals winning on the road, and now you got to go back home, and this is where things have to turn around for Washington because they've not been a good home team in the playoffs, which is, wild to say. I mean, you got 15, 16,000 fans on your side, and you're not delivering. So this is Washington's best shot to get this series in their favor. They have to take advantage of the crowd. They have to take advantage of the momentum. I believe it is on their side right now. But with the way the schedule is, I mean, you got a good 3 days rest between games, and then 3 and 4, and then you got another 3 days off before Game 5. So I think even with the win, it kind of takes away that momentum, that long break, and everything. But I want to see Washington, you know, play well on their own ice, and try to avoid that Vegas attack in Game 3, and we'll see how that goes from there.
All right, so we're going to shift over to the NBA, but just a reminder that this is Know the Score. You're listening to Don Delarente and the Libra icon, Dwayne. So, Dwayne, in the NBA, we got a fascinating story popped up where Brian Colangelo, the 76ers GM, is accused of using burner Twitter accounts to prop up himself and take shots at various 76ers players, present and former. The Ringer is being credited with this story, as there have been multiple accounts that have been kind of linked to insider information on 76ers players as far as injuries and just, kind of internal beef between players and things like that. Just a totally, shocking story and now shocking allegation. So what were your first thoughts, Dwayne, when you got wind of this story on Thursday? I think is when it started to come down.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, that you gotta consider because the Sixers were one of the best stories in the NBA this season, and everybody talked about how the process was coming into fruition, and even though after the Celtics knocked them out in 5, and they were still processing that loss, but the everything now is kind of just like, where if these are allegations are true, I mean, this is something that they definitely weren't distracted by, considering how they ended the season with 16 straight wins and whatnot. But I was surprised, but then again, you're not surprised by this because, everybody needs an outlet somewhere. And with the fact that these, these high profile players, GMs, things like that, they have to look into this and see what kind of things are happening, between behind the scenes, things like that. I don't know if Colangelo was jealous of the whole process thing, the whole Sam Hinkie situation, the whole Markelle Fultz pretty much saying, man up or whatnot. That was pretty wild. Something it's a pretty some shocking thing, but then you're not surprised because of the day and age that we're in, and it just shows that even high-profile execs and even players. I mean, we've seen it with Kevin Durant. They need these accounts to get their thoughts out as well. So now, of course, there's of course, Colangelo's denying all this, probably trying to save face to keep a job, but there are a lot of damning things that are going against him, especially considering that his wife's email is out there and things are matching up with that. And all he has to do is pretty much just own up to it, own up to it, get fired, and bring Sam Hinkie back for crying out loud. I mean, the process has worked. It came into fruition. I think the Sixers owners were. I mean, if they were patient enough to keep Brett Brown around, why weren't they patient enough to keep Sam Hinkie around? So, like everything that happened, has turned out well, except for this now, and it's an unnecessary distraction. And I like the way the Sixers are handling it. I mean, they're trying to let the whole process thing play out, but this is going to be a huge cloud over Philadelphia basketball for the next few months, and so they need to act accordingly and figure out what they're going to do with this.
There are five Twitter accounts in question. Colangelo has, basically owned up to owning one of them, but he said he used it more to kind of just monitor NBA news and things like that. But like you said, a lot of these Twitter accounts are following people that are very close to him, like his kids and like his basketball team and stuff like that. So, yeah, it doesn't look good as far as the circumstantial evidence that's going to be presented in this case towards him, using these Twitter accounts to, talk about, everybody from New Orleans Noel to the GM of the Toronto Raptors who replaced him and took his job. So a very interesting story to say the least. So we had some game sevens that took place since the last time we recorded, Dwayne. The Cavs defeated your Celtics in game 7, 87-79. LeBron James put up 35, 15, and 9, playing all 48 minutes. Jeff Green stepped up in the absence of Kevin Love to score 19 points as well.
Of all people.
Just a second half where I thought that Boston shot themselves out of the game, just taking too many threes. They didn't stick to the game plan that was working in the first half, which was having Al Horford kind of at the elbow running pick and roll and having them, shoot intermediate jump shots, and Al Horford dumping down, rolling in, getting post-ups and dunks. That really worked well in the first half to a 12-point halftime lead. But in the middle of the third quarter through the fourth quarter, Boston got jump shot happy, and they just didn't make enough. So, Dwayne, your assessment of LeBron James once again getting the Cavs into the finals?
Okay.
Still processing, huh?
Still processing it. It was a great run. I mean, LeBron James is the best player in this era right now of the NBA, and it's one of those things where they did fall in love with the 3-pointer too much. The Celtics did. Terry Rozier was 2 for 14. Jaylen Brown was 5 for 18. Marcus Smart was like 1 for 10. So it was pretty much a very they were combined 8 for 42. So, and then the Celtics were 7 for 39 from 3-point range in the end of the day. Tatum and Horford did all that they could, and LeBron got the help that he needed, and out of all people, it was from Jeff Green. I mean,
well, you called it last Saturday.
I did, and that frankly did not surprise me one bit. So, it was a great run. I think a lot of people celebrated. Of course, people always like to see a team like the Celtics go down, but they were pretty much saying that Milwaukee was going to beat them, and the Sixers were going to wash them, and the Cavaliers were going to win in 5, and you know they beat the Bucks, they washed the Sixers, and took the Cavs to 7 games, and a whole half made a difference. So next year we're probably gonna see some moves from Danny Ainge. I know he's already got his eyes on Texas forward Mo Bamba, so he's looking to move up in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see if you make a deal with the say Atlanta Hawks and send pick, and I don't know, maybe Marcus Smart. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. You got Hayward, who's had the screws in the plate removed to stabilize his leg, and he should be back. Kyrie Irving's going to be back as well. And so, the future is definitely bright in Boston. But the Cavaliers, they live by the slogan, whatever it takes, this postseason, and they lived up to it. And this is where we are now.
Is Terry Rozier an unrestricted free agent, or is this a player option for him?
It's a player option. He's not unrestricted, so definitely a player out. I think he has a player option, so we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be a lot of difficult decisions that are going to be made.
If there was a trade to happen to Atlanta, because you were talking about Schroeder doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild, that would probably be the guy right there that would probably get packaged with the pick.
Right. And I think, that would be pretty. I mean, Schroeder's a decent player. He's a pest too, so I think it'd be a good look for the Celtics if they got him.
All right. So the Warriors, they make a comeback from a second half deficit for the second straight game to defeat the Rockets in Game 7, 101-92. Kevin Durant scored 34 points and Steph Curry added in another 27. Houston missed an NBA Conference Finals record 27 straight three-point attempts. Chris Paul did not play in this game. He was out with a hamstring injury, and they really missed him because, again, they just settled for the three-point baskets. They weren't attacking the paint. You can see James Harden kind of wearing down. He was very aggressive in the first half, really attacking the paint, getting Capella a lot of dunks and open looks. But as he got tired, he started settling for jumpers, and Houston just didn't have any legs. And the Warriors do what they do in the third quarter, made their comeback, and made the plays in the fourth quarter to win the game. So D'Antoni didn't make any adjustments, and it cost them. And the Warriors are back to the finals for the fourth straight time. Dwayne, your thoughts on Houston? Do you think things would have been different if Chris Paul would have played in this game?
Probably not. I mean, I said Warriors in 7 anyway, so I really think even if Chris Paul played, then we would have to ask if Andre Iguodala would if he had made a difference. So I think that what would happen is with the Chris Paul injury, that was just a crazy, unfortunate incident. And I also noticed that when the Rockets were in the middle of that building a skyscraper with those missed three-pointers, Trevor Ariza was so busy trying to contain Durant. I mean, he went 0 for 12 and 0 for 9 for 3. And that was just a glaring statistic right there. And it was just one of those things, and it just boiled down to coaching. I think D'Antoni, if he really wanted to beat Steve Kerr like I think he wanted to, I mean, the whole run and gun offense that he had when Steve Kerr took over, it pretty much dismantled what D'Antoni's system needed. And so I know D'Antoni never forgot that, and you would have thought, hey, we're getting killed in the third quarter. Let me make some adjustments. Let me get my star rested up a little bit during the timeout, call additional timeout, try to, get his legs back. And he just showed, I mean, every single time the Rockets missed a three, they were defeated. The Warriors were just surging like they do in the third quarter. And it's just like the spirit of Houston was just like crushed. But would Chris Paul made a difference? No, I don't think so. I think when the Warriors do the third quarter thing, it's just it's like poetry in motion, and when they're hot, and it's just very tough to stop.
Yeah, sometimes in the third quarter, they really need to have like Sweet Georgia Brown playing in the background when they go on some of these runs. Because it's like, Globetrotter basketball with some of the
Exactly.
that they do. Just want to let everybody know that Know the Score this week is being brought to you by Amazon.com. You can help keep the podcast free and also get something for your father for Father's Day 2 weeks away by going through CSPN.us, clicking on the tab that says Keep Our Podcast Free, then scroll down to the Amazon link. Buy something for your father for Father's Day. Buy multiple things for your father for Father's Day. Some of your purchase comes back to us here at CSPN to help keep Know the Score free each and every week. So please, Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today. So we move into game one of the finals. The Warriors, they win a thrilling game one of the finals, 124-114 in overtime. LeBron James scored 51 points in the losing effort. Steph Curry led the way for the Warriors with 29. The game will be remembered for J.R. Smith losing track of the score after rebounding George Hill's missed free throw, which would have given the Cavs the lead. Smith dribbled the ball away from the basket instead of attempting a game-winning shot, which led directly to the overtime. So Dwayne, J.R. Smith obviously is not a subscriber here to the CSPN because he clearly didn't know the score. One of the biggest blunders in the history of the NBA Finals and probably of all of basketball. So just your first thoughts of the game overall, and then this particular J.R. Smith Shaqtin' the Fool incident.
Oh man, this game was a really good game, and I think a lot of people thought, myself included, okay, Cleveland's going to get blown out the water in the third quarter. We're going to see the third quarter thing happen. But the Cavs did a great job weathering the storm. Kevin Love came back, put 21 and 14 up. LeBron did his thing. Larry Nance Jr. he was very, very effective on the offensive side. Jordan Clarkson was effective on the defensive side. Like, this was the line. Remember when the Cavs made the trade and, everybody was gelling? That's what they needed. This is when they lost to the Warriors. This is what was the catalyst to the trade that constructed this team now. And they showed that they can hang. But it comes down to certain situations, and this leads me to J.R. Smith. There's no way you could tell me you thought the game was tied. There's no way you could tell me that you knew what the clock situation was. Because if you knew what the clock situation was, none of that would have happened in terms of running across the court, throwing up a whatever you want to call it, and then just say, I thought we were ahead. We saw it come out your mouth. I mean, those that can read lips or whatever. They saw, I thought we were ahead. And then, you're going to backtrack and say, I knew the game was tied. Which one is it? I don't think he knew what the game situation was. Otherwise, had he known what the game situation was, this would not have happened. And I don't know. I think that was probably Cleveland's best shot in the in this NBA Finals. I think that was their best shot in the first game, and that is pretty much where we are now. I mean, the Warriors did kind of pull away in overtime and got the W, and now Cleveland has to sit and regroup for game two, and hopefully this will be put out their heads. But I can also say this: none of this would have happened if George Hill made the free throw to begin with. And I think, because JR's blunder was so egregiously horrible that, nobody is kind of like George Hill sneaking out the back door, like,
it was the way LeBron reacted to J.R. Smith. I think that's making it so like the thing, though, because his reaction was just so incredulous.
Yeah, it was.
Like, at first it was, what are you doing? And then once he heard the explanation of, I thought you were ahead, he had a look of disgust when he turned around to go to the bench that I've never seen a professional athlete show towards one of his teammates. That made him
right. That'll probably be the moment he decided he's going to leave Cleveland right there.
If this would have been a game 7, they probably would have fought on that basketball court.
Agreed. Like, we would have probably seen teammates. Yeah, this would probably been so magnified, like fisticuffs would have happened.
Right. I mean, people always think about the Bill Buckner, the ball going through the legs or whatever, but that was only game 6. The Red Sox still had one more chance to win the game, to win the series the next day. But, just, make a blunder that big of proportion in a deciding game, man. So, maybe this will be the thing that'll kind of, maybe for Cleveland, kind of wake J.R. Smith up. He's been kind of sleepwalking through this whole playoffs, and maybe this embarrassment will kind of refocus him, and he can kind of add something to Cleveland's playoff push. But because he really hasn't done anything except for this
right
the playoffs. So
exactly, and the memes and the clips have been hysterical too. Like, shout out to the internet.
Right, undefeated is the internet. We also had some controversy though with the refs overturning a charge call on Kevin Durant. LeBron James stepped in the lane and a charge was called on Durant. But after the review, because this was in the last 2 minutes, the play was ruled a block, and the Durant hit both free throws to tie the game at 104. I thought it clearly was a block because, one, you can't take a charge with your body turned sideways. I don't care how early you get there or how late you get there. You got to be squared up to the man coming towards you. And LeBron was sliding in late, and then he was turning his body. So when the contact was made, he was sideways, and you can't call that a charge. I don't know what element of basketball allows you to do that. And I'm glad they had this ability to review it. But a lot of people are so up in arms that, oh my gosh, it's the finals and you don't overturn calls. Well, that's what it's there for. That's what they put the rule in for. So those are my thoughts on it. Dwayne, your thoughts on the controversial block charge?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were so focused on, is he in the circle? Is he out the restricted area? And I think people don't realize how he wasn't squared up to, face Durant. Like you said, he was turned to the side. And, I've never seen anybody get a call in their favor until that brief moment that LeBron got that call, where you're turned to the side and you take a charge. I think people were so focused on the restricted area, they really did not look to see how his body was. I think had his body been squared and he was out the restriction area, and then the call got overturned, yes, then you have a very, very legitimate gripe. But for the
and what's been funny to me over the past day and a half or whatever is the outrage is coming from people who know basketball.
Right.
Like y'all know basketball. Y'all know that if this was the second quarter, and they showed that replay, Jeff Van Gundy would be like, "That's not a charge. He's not square. That's a block. That's a bad call." But because of the players involved and everything like that, and the magnitude and what happened in the game, you got these very smart people like, "Oh my goodness, this was such an egregious error. They shouldn't be going back to overturn a call that was this or that." It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So this and even in the last 2 minutes report, the NBA supported that ruling because they said applying replay review is confirmed that LeBron was outside the restricted area, but the referees also review whether he is in a legal guarding position, which is an additional reviewable matter for the replay trigger. And the replay showed that James was not in a legal guarding position. He was turning his body and moving into Durant when the contact occurred.
Yeah.
Thus, the initial call on the floor was overturned, and James was assessed a blocking foul. And also, in this last 2 minutes report, Draymond Green should have been called for a lane violation on that George Hill free throw. And had he got called for that lane violation, George Hill would have got another attempt, and J.R. Smith would have been saved. And then, with 12.1 seconds to go, Green should also have been called for a foul for grabbing LeBron James' arm and affecting his freedom of movement because of contact that preceded James' pass to George Hill that led to Klay Thompson fouling him. So LeBron should have been on the line with 12.1 seconds instead of George Hill being on the line.
All right. Finally, things got spicy at the end of the game as LeBron was engaging in some trash talk with both Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and Tristan Thompson and Draymond Green got into it, which led to Thompson getting a flagrant 2 and being ejected. The flagrant foul has been downgraded, and he won't miss the next game. He will be fined $25,000 though. So after 4 years or 3 years in the finals, this is the 4th one in a row. We've seen, some tension and, little scuffles, fracas here or there. Of course, everybody remembers the LeBron, looking down on Steph Curry like it was his son in Cleveland when they were making that tremendous comeback to eventually win that finals. I think everybody got what they kind of wanted out of this game 1. I mean, they had an exciting game. You saw LeBron do amazing things. You saw Steph Curry making shots. You got, an all-time memorable mistake that'll always, draw back to this game. And then you got to see some trash talk and some animosity at the end. So what more can they do in game 2?
Well, I mean, when you've played each other for 4 years running in the biggest stakes of the association, this is going to happen. And now I think we're seeing things finally start to boil over a little bit. And we'll just have to see how things go. I mean, between the core of the Warriors and the 4 holdovers from Cleveland, this is something that is going to be very, very interesting to watch as the series goes on. See if the tempers continue to flare, and if the longer it goes, the better it is for drama, TV, all that.
Right. So, what are your too early to call it predictions for game 2? What do you see happening? To me, the Cleveland Cavaliers did a great job on the offensive backboard. They had a lot of offensive rebounds that really, kept the Warriors from getting out on fast breaks and caused them to have to play extra possessions of defense. So, if they can kind of continue that up through the rest of these games in the series, they can kind of keep these games close. But that's kind of my observation. What do you see for game 2?
I see game 2. A lot of people have been telling me that I know that they thought this was Cleveland's best shot. And I think we just got to see how it plays out. I think game 2, we will see. We'll see the continuation of the dominance of LeBron. We gotta get more Kevin Love. I mean, Kevin Love doing all he can. I mean, I never seen 21-14 just look like it's really like you have to do more. Uh, I will say that somebody, we saw Larry Nance come through a little bit on the offensive end. We're going to need to see more of that. And somebody, there's going to need to be a fourth guy. So whether it's Jeff Green, whether George Hill decides to show up, or if J.R. Smith, had his come to Jesus moment after game one, we'll just have to see what goes on
Um,
from here.
the guy who's kind of been missing the last few games for them has been Kyle Korver. He had been kind of the third guy you could count on, and then you were looking for your fourth guy. But now he's kind of slipped out of that position, and he hasn't really been playing well the past few games in the Boston series to end that series, and now this game against the Warriors. So I think like Houston, to really have a chance with the Warriors, you got to be able to stay close at the 3-point line. Hope that they can turn the ball over a little bit too much, and then offensive rebound. And so, Cal Korver is going to be a big part of that, staying close at the 3-point line. You can get outshot, but if you're only outshot by 2 or 3, you can make that up. LeBron can kind of make that up with free throws and things like that. But if they're going to outshoot you by 7 or 8, then, you got no chance to beat them unless they're turning the ball over a lot.
Mm.
So it's just hard to make up those extra points. So, yeah, game one gave us everything we could want. So game two will be definitely another showcase. This may be one of those all-time Wilt Chamberlain type stat lines for LeBron, where he averages close to 50 every game, and they still may only win one. So,
right.
it'll be fun to see what happens the remainder of the series. So at this point, Dwayne, I'm going to turn it over to you for your final thoughts, thank yous, and shout outs.
Final thoughts. Shout out to Jesse. I hope everything is well. Shout out to Tobias. Um, and shout out to you, Don. Thank you as always. Um, the Wrestlecast. Shout out to the Wrestlecast, the ladies' night episode with my TT, DD Janae, and Jade. That was a really good one. My final thought, we're probably at I'm gonna go back to the Champions League final and the blunders that happened with Liverpool goalie Loris Karius, and the final score was 3-1. Real Madrid, they beat Liverpool in the Champions League final. Two of the goals were pretty bad in terms of goalie errors. First one was when Loris Karius was trying to get the ball out to his teammate, but it was so lackadaisical, and Kareem Benzema ended up intercepting it and putting it right in the net. And then the very exceptional, awesome bicycle kick from Gareth Bale. I don't care if you're the best goalie in the world, you weren't stopping that. And then the second Gareth Bale goal, where it went through Karius's hands, and ultimately, this was after Liverpool tied the game. The bicycle kick and then the second Bale goal. Those two blunders really did cost Liverpool the game. It sucks as a goaltender. You're on an island all alone. So especially bad when your teammates don't come to, give you any consolation, and the opposition is the one consoling you. So I don't know what happened with that. I just want to say also that, at the end of the day, we want our teams to win, but sending death threats through social media is always like extreme and unnecessary, threatening somebody's family. At the end of the day, they are athletes. This is what they sign up for. But, people need to have also some sense, and, don't bring a man's family into it. Don't threaten their lives or things like that, because it's going to come back on you. And, just at the end of the day, don't make better decisions, whether it's on social media, whether you're betting, don't bet your house, or your car or something valuable where on a team or a player and they lose. So that's all I have to say about that, really.
All right. I'd just like to give a shout out to everybody here on the CSPN, especially all the podcasters who create all the content each and every week. I'd like to give a shout out to my co-hosts, Dwayne and Jesse, and also Nabias. My final thoughts will probably be the super phenom Ronald Acuna Jr. Got very lucky last week as he was trying to leg out a single and he hit the base awkwardly and it looked very bad at first, but it turned out to just be an ACL sprain and not a tear. So he'll miss about, if they're careful, probably about 25 days here. He's got on the 10-day DL stint, but they'll probably take their time with him. And in other kind of cool Braves news, former Atlanta Braves pitcher John Smoltz won a 3-man playoff to qualify for the U.S. Senior Open. He's always been touted as almost good enough to play professional while he was a pitcher for the Braves. But of course, his day job took up his time, so he couldn't quite get that extra little bit of practice that he needed to be, on the tour. But he's qualified to be in the United States Senior Open, and that'll be pretty cool to see kind of where he lands up. Now he's like one of the best pitchers ever in the major leagues as far as regular season and postseason. Transitioned to become one of the best closers at the time when he was closing as well. So it'd be interesting to see kind of what his second sport in professional sports looks like as he's going to be playing for the Senior Open. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Even though he was a Brave and whatnot, yuck. But good for him.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man, to see somebody. Like, I heard Tony Romo is like damn near good enough to be on the PGA Tour. Like, if he took the extra time to kind of, really took the practice hours, that he could probably get out there and be a professional on the tour right now.
Wow.
Yeah, seems to be like these guys who have a lot of money and are very competitive. They get caught up in golf because it's such a hard game, and there's just yourself, and you have to play yourself, and you have to play the course, and I guess it gives them that type of competitiveness that they need to fill in that you can't get when you don't play this game anymore. So a lot of guys I heard Ken Griffey Jr. is like really good too. So like a lot of these guys who are really good superstars at one game, take up golf and get really good at that as well. So that's really cool. So for the Libra icon, Dwayne, I'm Don Delarente, and now you know the score.